Hey guys, welcome to my channel if you're new here, and welcome back if you've seen this face before. And today's video is going to be another TikTok compilation, as I tend to do these days. Today's TikTok compilation is going to be on specifically Jamaican stories, like creepy, scary stories that all come from Jamaica. Ever since I did the Love Spells Gone Wrong video, I've gotten a lot more video recommendations on TikTok from like Jamaica, Haiti, just countries in the Caribbean. So today's video is going to be focused on just Jamaican stories. If this sounds like something that would interest you, then just keep watching. Not gonna lie, I compiled all these videos yesterday and I have already kind of forgotten the premise of some of them. So I'm just gonna click on them and we're just gonna roll with it instead of me having it like ordered in a way because I low-key forgot. So let's start.
I'm back with another spooky story. And the Jamaicans basically said, oh, you thought Haiti was the only place with lugawous? Aha, hold my purse. We're gonna call this story the neighborhood dog. So apparently there was an animal going around terrorizing people. And turns out it wasn't an animal at all. So the girl who submitted the story, we're gonna call her Kai. Kai lives in Portmore, Jamaica. Now Kai says as long as she was growing up, even as a little girl growing up, Kai says that she's used to her neighborhood having stray animals. The people in the neighborhood would even feed those stray animals. But there was this one dog that would come around. Kai says that there was something about this dog. He just made people uncomfortable, and the dog just had very realistic human features. Like the dog's eyes looked very human, and there's just a certain manner to the dog that just screamed human. And not to mention, this dog would get up and walk on its two paws, just like little weird suspicious stuff. Now Kai says she's known this dog since she was a child, and for whatever reason, around the time that Kai turns 13, this dog would start showing up in her dreams. She would have terrible dreams about this dog. She had a dream that one day the dog chased her and bit her. One day she even had a dream that the dog was eating somebody's heart. Kai says she continued to have multiple dreams about this dog, and it would be back to back. The one that really broke the camel's back for her was when she dreamt that one night the dog somehow appeared in her room and attacked her and chewed off her face. Now, what was so petrifying about this is that Kai says that the dream felt very real. So while she was sleeping fighting this dog, she was not only feeling the pain in the dream, but when she woke up, her face was all bruised and scratched up. So finally, she decided to go to her parents about this dog and the dreams that she's been having, and her parents looked horrified. She said the concerned looks on her parents' face sent her into anxiety because what is really going on? Her parents, without telling her anything, told her get dressed. So she gets dressed and they head over to this guy's house who practices voodoo or obia. The voodoo guy told her basically how to dress her bed before she goes to sleep to avoid these nightmares from happening. So she had to use a specific type of sheet on her bed of a specific color, and then use holy water mixed with Florida water to bless the bed. He also gave her this sack full of herbs and little rocks or crystals inside of it that would then keep her safe. And she was supposed to put that underneath her pillow every night before she goes to sleep. And she did, so that seriously slowed down the nightmares. Now, the sack of protection stuff literally lived under Kai's pillow. She never moved it. So there was no need for her to check every night before she goes to sleep. She would just go to sleep. One day she went to sleep like normal, and this time she has a dream. The dog is back. And this time, the dog was pissed. The dog started attacking Kai in her dreams again. And at this point, it's not just her face. This dog is attacking her everywhere. And Kai felt like she was going to die in her sleep. And she says as she's laying on the floor thinking that she's gonna die in her sleep, in her dream, she starts to see the dog transform into something. So the dog went from being a medium-sized dog. Now the dog is getting bigger and bigger. Shape of the dog seemed to be morphing, and out pops a man. The dog just turned into a man in her sleep. The man stood up and walked up to her in the dream, and this man told her, I want you to see my real face when I finish you. And the man proceeded to get on top of her and choke her in her dream. Long story short, she passes out in the dream, and next thing you know, she wakes up in the hospital. Apparently, she had gone into a coma for a week. Somehow, that night when she went to sleep a week prior, the sack of protection was somehow removed from under her bed. And it wasn't when she woke up that her parents decided to come clean to her about something. Kai's parents told her that her mom told her that dog is in fact her husband. She said basically the ex-husband was a lugawou and people caught on to that, including the mom. So the mom went to someone who's super powerful in the neighborhood to catch a lougawou. What the person ended up doing was cursing the mother's ex. The curse was the next time he shapeshifts, he is going to stay like that forever. And true enough, the very next time the man shapeshift, he never shifted back. He just remained a dog in the neighborhood. Going after Kai would make a lot more sense after her mother explains this story to her after waking up from a weak coma in the hospital. If you guys enjoyed this spooky story, please go ahead and follow me on TikTok.
Hell no, that story is absolutely insane. By the way, like a lugao, I hope I'm saying that right, is kind of like a witch. I kind of compare it to Navajo's culture's skinwalker, you know, they can like shapeshift, but they're really just a witch, you know. So I'm saying that because I think there's going to be more videos talking about lugawous. Yeah, that freaks me out so bad because I personally used to have dreams of being attacked by dogs as well. And as I got older, I heard that that's actually like a form of like a spiritual attack. If you dream of being attacked by dogs specifically, that's like some type of form of spiritual attack. And to make it even worse, it's her ex-husband. Like, yeah, no, that's absolutely insane. And that was a good start to the video. Alright, let's keep it pushing. So the next two videos are actually going to be talking about mermaids. In the Caribbean, mermaids are very prevalent in multiple of the countries there. So I just want to go over one of these stories. Let's give it a shot.
Tell the people them say mermaid real, you know, because none of them not believe from the channel, you know. They're a real thing, but you can't see them, they see them, me talk to them, other people see them talk to them, a real thing. It's a real thing. Sometimes them come and then they all about.
So in this video, the woman proceeds to talk about how a woman came into a bar and the woman was explaining how a mermaid came and killed her husband. And she proceeds to say how mermaids are real, how they look like you and I, how they look human-like, and how they walk around like you and I. Mermaids, I feel like there's so much evidence that proves that mermaids exist. You know, even when you look in ancient India, you know, they talk about how mermaids existed. I think it's such, you know, it's such an intriguing topic that most people can't quite grasp it. But it goes into such depth. Like, there is so many videos about mermaids.
So that was part one. Let's get into part two, where she also says a story of her own.
Yeah, this is a legit thing. Anyone from the Caribbean or with a Caribbean background, like, you've heard so many stories of mermaids, so many different stories. There was one particular story my aunt told me about how she knew a guy that fell in love with a mermaid. Unfortunately, that guy is not with us today. She personally feels that the mermaids took him to live with, to live amongst them. So, you know, she doesn't think he's dead, but he's definitely alive and well with his mermaid lover. Now, this was back before I was born, so I can't really give you evidence about something I wasn't even born. But she recounts how every single day, at the same time, he would go out to the ocean. He would go to the beach every day at the same time. She never knew what it was. She would ask him, but he would kind of, I'm just trying to clear my head. It's nothing serious. So she took it upon herself one day to follow him. So Auntie Josie followed this man to his destination that he always goes. And she said there was something weird about that particular day, like that approach. She said as she followed him, she stayed behind so that he wouldn't see her. So when he approached the ocean, he kept looking left and right, like making sure there was nobody around. And all of a sudden, he had this little shell that he blew into. And when he blew into that shell, something like the water started bubbling, like ruffling. And this lady appeared out of nowhere. At this point, Auntie Josie was like, yo, I can't be seeing this with my own eyes. So he's walking towards the ocean, towards this lady. And he's speaking to her like he's talking to a regular, individual. Like, hey, how are you? I missed you. Oh, you're so beautiful. I love you. Things like that. And in his hand, he had a gold coin. She said he flicked that gold coin in the ocean, and all she can see were like fins that was like diving down to this particular golden coin. She also believes that they have somehow had a child. Like, she feels that this mermaid got pregnant. So the guy is walking towards the water, and the water is getting deeper, like it's getting higher and higher and higher to the point it was up to his neck. And she said eventually his head was submerged in the water. Like, he didn't come out for hours. So she got impatient and she went back home. Now, she called a few people that she knew, and some people believed her, some people did not. And she said when he was at his home the next day, she asked him about it. Like, hey, what was this? I saw this happen. I saw you do this. She said that man's eyes literally was like big as the moon. And she told me that he grabbed her, like, tell me what you know. Like, what did you see? And she said she was scared. She was like, I didn't see anything. I didn't see a fucking thing. I didn't see nothing. And he told her, do not tell anyone what you saw. He knew that she saw something if she's bringing it up to him. She said she followed him one more time to the ocean. One more time when he least expected it. She followed him one more time. When he was at the ocean, he had a bag with him. And she said it looked like the bag had like clothing, like essential things that you need when you're traveling. She said he walked to the ocean like always, and he never came back. Never came back. She said she went to his house. She asked around, like, have you seen this person? And he did not reappear. He has not appeared to this day. She really believes that, they were at the point of their relationship where he didn't need to come back to land. He didn't need to attend to his land life. So she feels that he has officially become a mermaid with his partner, with his lover, mermaid lover. One thing that really stuck out to me in her story, my aunt's story, is towards the ending. She said when he was walking to the ocean, that one last time she followed him, he kept sobbing, saying, Melanineth, I'm here, Melanineth. I'm with you forever, Melanineth. And she said as he's walking to the water, he kept saying that until his head was completely submerged. Wow.
That's just all around like such a crazy story to digest. I believe it though, I'm not gonna lie, I believe it. I definitely want to do more research on like mermaids in the Caribbean because like I said, like multiple different countries in the Caribbean have stories about mermaids. So I'm definitely interested in diving into them a little bit more because not gonna lie, I don't know too much about it. But that's just like a wild story.
Okay, y'all, so I'm gonna retell the Catman story. A lot of y'all have probably heard this story, but my old account is gone, so retelling it. So when I was like 14, I lived in Jamaica with my mom, and one night it was really late, like 2 or 3 in the morning. I was in the living room watching TV. My mom was asleep, and I'm hearing what sounds like cats fighting outside. So I'm just like, I wanted to see 2 cats. Like, that was my entire goal, bro. I thought that I was gonna see 2 cats fight. So I go out onto the veranda, which is like a porch. The way how the house is set up, I'm on the 2nd floor of the home. There's a first floor, and then the yard is out there. In our yard, we had 5 mango trees. 4 of them was on the right side of the house, and 1 of them was on the left side. So I'm looking at the left side of the house from the 2nd floor veranda. I thought it was 2 cats fighting, but I was wrong. There was 1 little white cat there, and it was like, the sounds it was making was like it was in pain. I'm thinking either the motherfucker is gonna give birth, or it's like something's wrong with it. So then the cat starts getting into a stretching position. You know the position that cats do when like they just woke up, like they got their butt in the air and the front part of them is like stretched all the way out with their hands like that? That's what it was doing. I don't like, maybe I was just bored, maybe I was just in awe, but I didn't stop looking. Like I was just staring at it as this is happening. And then the fucking face of the creature begins to turn upside down. Like, I know when y'all are visualizing some shit like that, you think of the head doing a 360. Like, no. The face of the creature began to turn upside down. The face opened up like a flower, like peeling back. And mind you, it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Street lights. I'm in Jamaica. I know the drill. Once I seen the shit starting to stand up, like stand upright, I went back into the house. Like it had been growing in size and changing and all this shit. But when it started to get up, I was like, yeah, I need to not be here. Walked back into the house and I just acted like I didn't see anything. And then maybe like 2, 3 minutes later, I looked through my living room window because the living room looked into the right side of the house with the 4 mango trees. So I'm looking through that window and I see a man in a white wife beater, a dark skinned, skinny man, white wife beater, walk out of my yard and off into the road. Once again, it's 2, 3 in the morning. Nobody is in my yard, bro. There's nobody in the yard. And after I seen that shit, I was sick for like 3 days. I was sick, like weak, can't eat, fever, chills, like the craziest weakness I've ever felt. Like weak, like I can't do anything type shit. And I can't keep anything down. Like it was horrible. And when I first told this story, a lot of people said to me, like, you got sick because you were not supposed to see that. And it knows that you saw it. So listen, I just know I'm not looking for cat fights anymore, bro.
No, the visual of that like freaked me out. I would have been done as fuck. Like, what? Sorry, I got a phone call, so I low-key forgot exactly what I was saying, but that story is like nightmare fuel to me. Like, I don't know. What I noticed right now looking at all these videos, I feel like all the videos I kind of picked are not that long. So I feel like this is going to be a shorter video compared to like my last couple videos. Maybe. Unless I yap too much, you know? That's possible. But anyways, let's keep it pushing.
I've had a few of you guys reach out to me recently in regards to the Flat Bridge in Jamaica. It's one of the oldest bridges in Jamaica and was constructed in the mid-18th century by slaves, where hundreds of them died in the process. The strangest part about this bridge is, as you can see, there are no sides to the bridge. There are no guards, nothing, to prevent cars from going straight off that bridge. Every time they try to add rails and walls, they just don't stay up somehow, no matter how many times they've tried. The locals to the area believe that the bridge is haunted, either by the souls of those that died constructing it or by the mermaids that dwell beneath it, cursing it. This is widely believed because of the sheer amount of inexplicable happenings that occur on this bridge, involving a lot of deaths and both fatal and near-miss car crashes. Some people believe that there's a particular season in which the mermaids get hungry and go on a frenzy and start running people off the sides of the bridge. The stories told by people that have lived to tell their tale are frightening, to say the least. For example, a heavily pregnant woman explains on YouTube that while she was driving across the bridge, she experienced an overwhelming sensation that she was being restricted and suffocated by her seatbelt. And as she was pushing on the brakes, they became extremely tough and the vehicle started veering towards the water's edge. She said she started praying and then miraculously gained control over the vehicle, getting herself safely to the other side. This is just one of many stories. Just like this person who was spotted sitting at the base of the bridge.
I'm glad to feed the fishes. So I want to know who this person is. What is he doing on the...
It was later discovered that this man was paying his respects to those that died on the bridge. This man has also been seen in another video where he explains he woke up at the base of the bridge surrounded by water with a beautiful woman.
Don't waste all that. You know, darling, girl, looking fine. She's laughing and thing, and you know what I mean? I was like, yo, come out the water.
But something distracted me on the other side of the bridge where I turned my face to the land up in the hills. You know what I mean? I saw some rock, you know, made a slip in and all that. But when I turned around back to see where she was completely gone.
Says that she's very persistent in trying to get him to come for a swim. But when he's distracted and turns to see that she is gone, not only has she disappeared, but there's no longer any water anymore.
The water turned to sand.
I completely forgot that this was a mermaid-centered video, and just wow, like, the thought of mermaids literally driving people off the bridge during their hungry season, like, what? Really? Like I said, I don't know much about these mermaid lore over there in the Caribbean. I didn't know that they ate people like that. And like, why don't those rails stay up? Why don't, like, yeah, the rails that they try to install on the bridge ever stay up? Like, what? There's definitely some type of force there that's like not allowing the guardrails or whatever they're called to stay up, which is like unsettling for sure.
So my dad just dropped some lore and told me that he's seen the Smiling Man as a kid, and this is why he hasn't been back to Jamaica. Now, I didn't know who the Smiling Man was before this, but when he told me this story, I was like, wait a minute. I do not want to meet this guy. So my dad, he used to live in Jamaica, and as a kid, he used to be very active. He used to run a lot, and he would go on like nightly jogs, walks around his neighborhood. So he told me on these walks, he always went on the same route, and it was full of streetlights, so you could see your surroundings. So this particular night, while my dad was on his nightly walk, he said he decided to take a different route from before. So he told me on the street that he usually walks, there's an area that leads off into a park, and in that park, there's like a smaller trail. The trail does a full loop, and he's done it many times before, just not at night. But this night, he was feeling different. He was feeling daring. You know where that gets you? So my dad told me that this trail in the park didn't have streetlights, and knowing that it didn't have streetlights, he wanted to test out his running abilities and see if he can fully run the trail with only a flashlight in hand. So my dad said as he approached the park and the opening of the trail, he got this like really uneasy feeling. But he decided to push it away because he didn't want his nerves to get the best of him. Clearly, my dad ain't never seen a horror movie in his life. So he said he turned on his flashlight and began to run through the trail. So everything was going fine at this point until my dad said he saw something run across the trail at a distance. He said in the moment of seeing that, he stopped in his tracks. He began to listen. He wanted to hear what that thing was that ran across. Because for all we know, it could be a dog, a cat, a bear, a mountain lion, like, it could be anything. But like I said before, he didn't want his nerves to get the best of him, so he just thought that it was a cat. So he continued on the trail with open ears, and he said about 2 minutes later, my dad said he was running through the trail, made this really sharp turn, and at the corner of his eyes, he saw a figure standing there. My dad quickly shined his flashlight to then see nothing. So he said in this moment, his heart stopped because he knew for a fact that he saw something. So that's when he heard the bushes moving, and then he heard a laugh coming from it. So after hearing a laugh, my dad said these exact words: "You can come out because that's not funny or I'm gonna beat your..." He said after he said that, he heard the same bushes moving. And that's when he shined his flashlight on it, but what happened next shocked him. My dad watched as this man with a very tall figure popped up from the bushes with this sinister smile. He said it was a huge smile. It looked uncanny. It was unnatural, and it was just weird. It was almost as if it was a human in disguise. My dad said he tried to ignore the smile while talking to the man, but every single thing he asked, the man would not answer, and the smile would just get bigger. After hearing no response from this man, he did what anybody else in the world would do. He booked it. He ran. Finally, my dad said he ran through this trail as fast as he could. Now, my dad is a runner, but this time he was a runner. So he said he was running as fast as he could, but he could still hear this man right behind him. At one point, he was able to turn around while running, shine the light on the guy, only to find out he was just standing there. Standing still, no smile, nothing. So out of fear, my dad screamed, "What do you want?" And after that, things got even more creepier. My dad said once again, there was no answer from this guy. Instead, the man started to smile again and lifted his hand, pointing at my dad. So lucky for my dad, he already knew this trail from going on it before, so he knew it from the back of his head. He also knew that he was almost reaching the end of the trail. So just keep that in mind. My dad said after this man pointed at him, "Tell me why the flashlight started to flicker." Now, once again, as that started to happen, my dad booked it. He said while running, he let out a scream to alert anybody nearby in hopes that they can hear him and would at least show up at the end of the trail so they would be able to see what he was also seeing. After a few seconds of running, my dad finally reached the end of the trail and he continued to run. He did not stop. He ran all the way back to the road with the streetlights and he was drenched in sweat and he was out of breath. My dad said he turned around one last time while he was on the street just to see if the man was still there. My dad said as he turned his back to see nothing, he turned right back around to find the guy smiling right in front of him. In this moment, he went full defense mode. He said he struck the man with the flashlight right in the head, and as he was down, he ran all the way back home. He said he locked every door, every window. He slept with his lights on. He even got in trouble for doing that, but he did not care. No. But ever since that night, my dad said he never saw that man again, and he'll never step foot in Jamaica, because honestly, that guy might be waiting for him at the airport. But my dad did say that as a kid, when he kept walking down that street where the park was, he always got chills down his spine, and it was almost as if someone was watching him. But luckily, he never saw him again, so whew, we're chilling.
At least his dad, like, reacted and didn't just, like, freeze up when the smiling man just appeared in front of him. Yeah, traumatizing. I wouldn't want to go back there either if I experienced something like that. Like, what? Something about, like, especially now after the Smile horror movies have come out, I just can't help but to imagine, like, that type of shit, and, like, that is so creepy. Now, this video is actually gonna be, like, 4 TikToks in one video because she separated the video up. So let's go ahead and get started.
Just think about it. It's around 1 in the morning. You just came from having fun, hanging out, clubbing with your friends, only for you to have to face yourself. Scary story time. Hey y'all, sorry it's been so long. My life has literally been flipped upside down, but I love and appreciate you guys for the patience. So there's this girl, let's call her Marissa. She got off of work around like 5 p.m. and her best friend hits her up like, hey girl, let's go outside. It's Friday, let's go out. She's like, bet, we're outside. So they go out, they have fun, they have a great time. As they're leaving, she meets this guy, and he's charming, he's handsome, he's perfect. Exchange numbers, and before she leaves, he gives her a kiss on the cheek. She's blushing and has butterflies going home. So her friend drops her off at home, she's drunk, she goes inside, and she starts to notice that the cheek where he kissed her seems a little itchy. And so she's thinking, oh my god, these men in their beards, blah, 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 whatever. So she decides she's gonna get in the shower before she goes to bed. And so she gets her pajamas, goes to the bathroom, only to notice that there is a rash on her cheek. This sobers her up really quick, because the area that she was in, that she lived, because this was in her home country, they are very deep and very heavily into voodoo. And so now she's like, oh no, did I just get got? And so she just decides, you know what, maybe I'm just drunk and overthinking it. Let me get in the shower, put some cream on it, and it'll be better in the morning. And she does just that. She gets in the shower, she takes her shower, she puts some cream on it, and she goes to bed. But little does she know, she ain't going to sleep no time soon. So she's in bed, and as she's about to fall asleep, she hears her name being called. And so that wakes her up, and she's like, oh, am I crazy? Did I just hear my name being called? She's like, oh, I'm probably just drunk. And she tries to go back to sleep again. Only this time, her name is being called, but it was her full name. The first time was just her first name. This time, it's her full government. And at this point, she shook. She sat up, and she waited to see if she was going to hear it again. And she heard it again, only this time, it screamed. And she realized that it was coming from out of her window. And so she walks to her window, only to see herself standing outside, calling her name. So she's looking at the window, and she sees herself, and she is frozen in fear, terrified. And at this point, whatever that is repeating her name over and over. Marissa, Marissa, Marissa. And it's staring straight into the front of her house, like her front door. As she's standing there terrified, don't know what to do, her grandma busts into her room. And she gets in there prepared. Like she had the sage in her hand and was praying already. And her grandma says, go to my room now. But she wants her grandma to see it, to see her outside. So she's like, grandma, come look outside. It's me. It's me. And so grandma goes to look out the window, but she doesn't see anything. Only her that can see herself outside. So her grandma tells her once again, go to my room now and stay there. I'll be right there. So no questions asked, she runs to her grandma's room because she's terrified. And as soon as she got to the room, you know how grandmas be having those old dressers with the big mirrors in front of them, the flowery things? She gets to her room and she sees herself in the mirror, and the whole side of her face, the side that the guy kissed, the skin is peeling off. She starts screaming, crying, terrified. So her grandma runs back to the room to make sure she's okay. Grandma's like, what? What happened? What happened? Why are you screaming? What happened? Did something happen? She's like, my face, my face. She's crying, saying, my face. Do you see my skin, my face? Grandma's like, what are you talking about? Your face is fine. She's looking at herself in the mirror. She's like, no, my skin is, I can see it. I see my skin peeling off. And Grandma pauses for a second and she asks her, did anybody touch you tonight? She tells her grandma, yeah, I met this guy. He was really cute. He was handsome, but he kissed me on the cheek before he left. In the moment she said that to her grandma looks terrified. So she immediately makes a phone call. She's not telling Marissa who she calling. She just leaves the room and makes the phone call. And then in about 30 minutes to an hour, 2 men arrive. One of them was her uncle and the other one was her uncle's friend, a voodoo priest. So the uncle and his friend get there and obviously they ask like what happened. And she's still freaking out trying to calm herself down, but she managed to calm herself down enough to explain what happened. She told them about how she met the guy at the club. He kissed her cheek. They went their separate ways. And at this point, she still sees that her skin is falling off, right? And so they ask her, who is the guy? Like, you guys exchanged numbers, right? She's like, yes, we did. And immediately went to her phone to look for the number. But for some reason, the number's no longer on her phone. And at this point, she's like, what the fuck? So she calls her best friend and she's like, hey girl, I'm sorry it's really late, but a lot of things are happening right now and I need to ask you, who was the guy? Do you remember the name of the guy that I was talking to outside of the club before we left? And her best friend goes, what guy? She's like, when we were on our way to the car, I stopped because this guy started talking to me. He was really cute. He was really handsome. And her best friend, half asleep, goes, oh yeah, I do remember you talking to somebody, but it wasn't no cute, handsome guy. It was this old man, and I figured he was asking you for directions. And Marissa's like, what, girl? No. Like, I was talking to this really cute, handsome guy, and he gave me his number. And I told you about it when I got to the car. And the best friend is like, yeah, I just thought you were just drunk talking, because that was definitely an old man that you were talking to. And at this point, Marissa starts freaking out all over again. Now the uncle and the friend and grandma are caught up. They took Marissa, did whatever work they had to do that night. She said they did prayers over her and a whole lot of stuff. She couldn't sleep for the rest of the night because that was pretty traumatizing for her. But eventually, everything was fine until her uncle's friend, the voodoo priest, came back to the house. So her uncle's friend, the voodoo priest, comes back to the house to speak to grandma. Now, everything had been fine for that little bit of time, so him coming back started to make her a little anxious. And so as her grandma and her uncle's friend are talking in the living room, she goes to eavesdrop because she needs to know. Now, before I go on with the story, let me give you a little backstory. About a month before that night where she went out, she broke up with her ex-boyfriend because he cheated. And he didn't take the breakup well at all. Like, he was continuously texting her, calling her, popping up at her place, all that crazy stuff. He just couldn't get through to his head the fact that they are actually done. And then out of nowhere, he just stopped. And she took it as a good sign, as like, okay, damn, finally, like, I've been trying to tell you to leave me alone. Now back to the story. So she's listening to them talking, and the voodoo priest is telling her grandma that her ex is doing this. Her ex did it. Her ex sent her something, and in this case, I'm assuming a zombie, to charm her and kiss her on the cheek. And after she gets that kiss, she will never get attention from any guy ever again, in an attempt to destroy her destiny, so she wouldn't be able to get married unless it's him, and she wouldn't be able to be with anybody unless it's him. And as she's listening, they call her into the conversation and basically explain the same thing that they were talking about, letting her know that this is all the works of her ex-boyfriend. And now she's like, no wonder why he stopped stalking me. He didn't really stop, he just started doing it spiritually. And so the voodoo priest, grandma, and Marissa had to do a lot of things to try to reverse it or block it or whatever. And it worked, but only to a certain extent. Because for the next 3 years of her life, her dating life was trash. It worked good enough for men to still be attracted to her and want to talk to her and want relationships with her, but the relationship would never go through. They would randomly just ghost her, or it was something else, but it just never worked. Moral of the story is, these men be doing voodoo, and I be trying to tell y'all that. These men are out here doing voodoo. Stay safe.
Yo, yeah, that is sick. That is so messed up for somebody to do, like, that type of spell. Putting that type of spell on somebody is so selfish. Like, I would have needed to send that type of magic right back to him, because, like, what the fuck kind of shit is that? No, sir. No, sir. Not around here. If you can help it, just don't let people touch you, because, like, you just never know the intentions behind being touched. And when I was going through these videos, I came across another story where the mom kind of picked up that bad magic was being spread by hugs. Like, somebody was hugging somebody else and then transferring bad magic onto them through a hug. Like, yeah. So just, like, be really careful when it comes to letting people touch you, especially strangers, because, like, that's so scary. So this next video is a two-part series, and what I remember from this, like, this is, like, so scary. By the way, a duppy is like a ghost. Yeah. Alright, let's get into it.
Have you ever heard of the Spanish Town Duppy? Before I start this video, I just want to say this story happened during my lifetime, and I watched this entire thing air live. If you grew up in Jamaica around the same time as me, you probably remember the exact story I'm about to talk about. In November 2010, a family came desperately to the news for help. Something was wrong. Their child, an 11-year-old boy, had been experiencing a demonic attachment. The family was from Spanish Town, which is located in St. Catherine, Jamaica. It's also where I'm from. Many people do believe that Spanish Town is full of evil spiritual activity because of the amount of violent deaths that have occurred there. The family appeared on the news, and on live television, the ghost attacked him. I remember vividly sitting on the edge of my seat as we watched this little boy be dragged around his yard by an unknown entity. Not just the family, but the entire community described the ghost's violent ways. Oddly, the little boy claims that the ghost he is seeing is a friend of his that died 4 years prior to the events. But why would a friend's spirit come back just to wreak havoc? People think that it could be a demon just appearing to him as his friend to get his guard down. He claims the spirit just started appearing to him one day, wearing a white shirt, black pants, and a black watch. The little boy's grandmother is clearly distraught as she laments about how this spirit has taken hold in her home. She tells of it throwing and smashing her figurines, hitting her in the back and head with stones. She even talks about how she's witnessed the spirit drag the little boy under his bed, push him into corners, and a bunch of other things. In the original segment, the news team captures 2 instances where the little boy seems to be attacked by the spirit. When you see his movements, it's very clear that it's something else pulling him, not the force of his own body. This isn't a video that I can show on TikTok, so feel free to type in Spanish Town Duppy and you will find it on YouTube. But also, this isn't where this case ends at all. Let me know if you want a part 2. This is the Spanish Town Duppy, part 2. After the tale of my previous video, the news team did return once more to see the boy who had the spirit attached to him. The family claims that it had gotten much, much worse. In an attempt to get the spirit to show itself, a reverend named Rohan Edwards begins to taunt it. The reverend yells at it to throw something, hit him, or take the little boy. Suddenly, the boy's leg is yanked behind him and upward. He is turned almost upside down from the momentum with which the spirit pulled him. His mother rushed in and grabbed him shortly after. The reverend asked the spirit to take the boy one more time. This time, the boy was flung to the floor and his arm was dragged under a nearby seat. In the original news clip, the little boy is desperately grabbing for anything around him to pull him up before his family is able to help him. The young boy began sobbing in his grandmother's lap, This is too much for him and he wants the interview to be over, but they keep going. Even the Reverend at this point seems shooken up, but he still has a plan of action. He walks around the family yard, sanctifying the land with olive oil. The Reverend and others believe that the spirit has a direct attachment to the boy, not the land, so he is also blessed with olive oil. They believe this because the boy's own father tells tale of how he took him to Montego Bay and the same thing happened. He took him to Portmore and the same thing happened. No matter where the little boy was going, he was dragged under the bed. Stones were thrown at the house through all hours of the night, and the activity was just paranormal. In the interview, even the bishop himself sounds shaken up by what is going on. He blesses the boy in a very meek tone. At the conclusion of the interview, the little boy says that he can still see the spirit, but it doesn't seem to be coming after him anymore. So I guess that's some sort of progress.
That is like genuinely such a scary, like, spiritual encounter. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm at least glad with the final update the demon wasn't like still pursuing him anymore. But I can't imagine watching something like that happen to my child or my grandchild or anything like that. And to witness the attacks to that extreme must have been traumatizing for everybody. Like, oh man. So yeah, you guys, that is all the videos I have for today for the Jamaican, like, horror stories, creepy stories, whatever you want to call it. I am open to maybe doing a part 2 or making another video about another island in the Caribbean. If you have a place that you want to recommend to me, a place, a topic, anything that you want to leave in the comments, I'm open to checking it out. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed chilling with me today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.